Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lifeboat. I am your captain, Tommy. People, first of all, great lid, huh? Is this thing awesome or what? Oh, people, this was purchased for me by someone that is, let's just say, there is not a longer time supporter of me and what I do than this individual, but would like to remain nameless, and I will respect that. But see how much better I'm getting at this, people, huh? I love this. I love this. Can't wait to hear what James J has to say about it. Huh? Okay, people. I get emails a lot from a lot of people, and there are threads that continually come through. When they do, and I get enough of them, then I address them here. And most of the time they're positive. Every once in a while there's something that just, isn't the happiest subject that has to be addressed. This one, however, there's a couple of options when you're running a channel. And one of them is when someone says, you talk about this concept often and I'm not sure that I really understand it. If I've covered it already, it is very easy to just say what you need to do is go back and watch the videos. But number one, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be somebody that just says, well, I already did it, just go look. And if I'm getting this from more than one person, obviously, there's, 90 videos. Soon there'll be 100. And it's a daunting task to go back and watch every single video I've done, especially because I don't put up 5-minute content. I tend to put up videos that are a little bit longer. And in the beginning, they were super long. And I think that, sometimes people look at the 30 minutes and say, well, I'm going to catch one of the other ones, or I'll get back to that. And there are concepts that are such an important part of everything that we do here that people are questioning. So I am going to be going over some stuff, and it's not going to hurt anyone that hears it again. And you'll hear it with a different spin. But people, the basis for everything having to do with addiction, pardon me, is tied in two ways. Depending on what your addiction is. Let's take gambling, right? I'm in Nevada, so let's take gambling. There is the adrenaline rush of waiting to see what the next card is, right? There's the anticipation rush of waiting to see if your horse wins or if your football team wins. People in prison, gambling is a absolute religion because there's nothing else to do. So during football season or basketball season, everybody in the place is playing a ticket, and the tickets are usually parlays, right? So there's 3 or 4 teams and they all have to win by and cover a specific spread or whatever in order to get paid. The term that they use inside is sweating in a ticket, because that's literally what these people do. They're sweating it in. They're looking at 2 TVs and they're seeing which team's doing this, and I only need this one to hit by 4 points, and these guys are down by 2, but a field goal is going to make me hit my ticket. And there's that rush of the adrenaline and the excitement. Then the secondary thing that takes place inside the brain, and this is what levels the playing field for all addictions, whether or not you're have a food addiction, whether or not it's gambling again, or it's drugs of any kind. What levels the playing field is that there's 2 components to every addiction. There's the first, and in gambling, obviously, it would be the adrenaline. In food, it would be that fantastic taste, right? You don't, someone with a food addiction doesn't go out and eat stuff they don't like the taste of, right? So they eat things they enjoy the taste of, and that is the first on the 2-part component to the addiction. With drugs, it's a little bit more obvious, right? If you're doing, if you're a pot smoker, right, you've got the THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol. That is going to get you high, right? You're going to feel an effect as that enters the brain. And the THC receptors pull that in, and all of a sudden, you get mild euphoria, you get all of these different things that make you feel good. And then the secondary part, once again, is the reward. Every single addiction across the board, has that 2-part component. But the part that is so important here on the boat is that second component, because the reason people that we say we're all in the same boat, right, is because it doesn't matter if you're pulling the slot machine arm, and it doesn't matter if you're eating chocolate, and it doesn't matter if you're doing heroin. Truthfully, the thing that keeps us all in the same boat is that somewhere along the line, unlike the rest of the world, for us, for everybody in this boat, we have developed that secondary part of the equation, okay? So if there are people out there for whom they pull the thing and they wait to see if the reels come up, and that's the only thing they're going to get. And that excitement, and that's why there are people who gamble 5 times a year, or they gamble once every 5 years, and they go in and they just have fun with it and they leave. And it's a fairly harmless diversion, right? If you're not spending the rent, what's the big deal, really? Same with every other addiction. Granted, if you're doing something illegal, there's issues with that. But I've said it before, and people go nuts every time I do. But if you do a drug once every 5 years, I really don't care. I don't care. I'm not here to bash on lifestyles. I'm here to try to help people get their life in order. And for many normal people, that second phase never takes place. But for us, as addicts, what happens is a switch gets thrown in the brain. And all of a sudden, the part of your brain that is normally releasing reward chemicals for things like a job well done, things like intercourse, things like a nurse handing you your baby for the first time, joy, all of the different things that we have in life. Your brain, when you feel joy, it's not just because you're happy. I mean, obviously that's a component, but what it really is, that happy is a chemical release of inside the brain. Your brain gives you drugs. That's really what happens, right? So you get these feel-good drugs that you create yourself, and it goes, and it releases into the body, and you go, and you get the smile on your face, right? And everything is great, and you feel good. Okay. For the addict, when you're waiting for that football game to come in, right, the secondary part of the equation happens. And just like you would have gotten for a job well done or a nurse handing you your baby, these chemicals now release. So your body begins to reward you for doing the wrong thing, right? This is the concept of why some people are addicts and why some people aren't. And this people is why, not to hammer home a point, but this people is why the medical community calls this a disease. Why they say addiction is a disease. Because for some people, there's a secondary component. It doesn't happen for everybody. Why does it happen for some people? Because they're weak, right? Because they can't handle it? No, because they have a different thing going on in the chemical makeup of the body, in the gray matter, from ear to ear. Somewhere inside, there is something different happening to you and me and all of the other people who are all in the same boat. Capiche? Okay, so that is a disease, according to many, according to most. That is a disease that affects a certain percentage of the population. So that is why you and your friend can drink every day together for 5 years, and one is going to get addicted and one is not. Because one is never going to be rewarded by the brain for the things that they've done. Now, these reward chemicals that our brain gives us goes back to the beginning of man. Right? When we would build a fire successfully so that we could stay warm, those release chemicals would happen in the brain. When we went hunting and we brought down food that we could bring back and feed the entire family, those reward chemicals were released in the brain. So there was the body had a way to reward important behavior to ensure that we continued to do it, right? If this did not happen while we were procreating, then the race would not have continued on. You understand? If sex was not super enjoyable, then there probably wouldn't be 7 billion people on the planet. These release chemicals were so much a basic part of who and what we are that it is just survival. It's what keeps us going. It's what makes everything work. When it doesn't work, when the train jumps the track, or when the boat hits the iceberg, is when your brain starts going, I'm going to give you those chemicals if you snort that again. I'm going to give you those chemicals if you pull that lever again. I'm going to give you those chemicals if you eat chocolate. I'm going to give you those chemicals. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're all in the same boat. I get emails continually from people who still say, well, I'm not addicted to anything, but I eat way too much. I mean, maybe you just eat way too much. But if you can't stop, if it becomes a compulsion, then what's happening is the switch in your brain is rewarding the behavior that's not good for you. It literally is rewarding behavior that can kill you. It is the exact opposite of what this chemical is intended to do. Okay? So, for those of you who have asked, what I keep talking about when I say the reward part of the brain, the reward center of the brain starts to malfunction. People, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I call this a disease of choice. Addiction, if you never feed that particular beast, then you don't have to worry about the fact that your chemical makeup isn't right. And don't doubt me on this, people. There are heroin addicts walking around the planet that have never done heroin. You understand what I'm saying? There are people for whom that switch will get thrown the first time they do it. Then there are the lion's share of people who are going to throw up the first time they do it and go, oh, we'll never do that again. If I sat here and said to you that a huge percentage, I can't give you a number, I could make one up on the spot, but a huge percentage of people who get addicted to heroin and a huge percentage of people who do heroin every day throw up every single time they do it. Now, that's something that's so hard to wrap your brain around, right? How could you possibly get addicted to something that makes you vomit every single time you do it? Because there's something going on in the brain of an addict that the feeling they get after that, the body goes, throws a switch, the feel-good chemicals come on. So yeah, I get sick, but my body's telling me to do it. It's telling me you have to do it. It's telling me that this is paramount to survival. The only way I'm going to survive is if I continue to do this habit. That's what the chemicals are telling you, right? These are survival equipment that we have built into the brain. So the brain starts going, boy, you want to survive, you better start doing more of that dope. You want to survive, you better keep gambling. You want to survive, turn that porn on. It's a two-part thing, people. So while we all might not share the first component, I share the first component with people whose addictions were opiates. I don't share that same first component with gamblers or alcoholics or many, many other things. But the second part of it, that overwhelming need, right, that drives you to do something that is bad for you, that you know is bad for you, and goes against everything that you believe in. If you happen to be religious, you know that you are not in step with your creator. You know that all of these things go against every single thing that makes sense. Yet the brain keeps going, got to do it. Got to do it. This is essential. If we're going to survive, you got to do this. So the importance of understanding this and the importance of realizing exactly what's going on is because the way that you can win a fist fight with your addiction is to not get into a fist fight with your addiction. So once we can separate ourselves from the chemical for a period of time and your brain resets, once that happens, now the only way to win is to never start again. Because if you think that now that it's out of your system, you can go back and just do it recreationally, or you can go back and just do it every once in a while, this, people, is the proof that this is a disease. Call it what you'd like. Call it that sticky bad habit, or call it whatever you want. But what it basically means is that two organisms side by side, one could absolutely do that. Once they get it out of their system, they could go back and recreationally do whatever they're doing. One group of people on this planet can do that. We are an it, right? We're the other group. What is the difference between the two of us? One of us has a disease, the other does not. And the disease is the fact that that reward center of our brain is going to tell us to do things that we should not be doing. Hopefully, people, that explains what I'm talking about when I say the reward centers of the brain. And now as I make reference to that going forward, and people, I will be making reference to that until this boat achieves its goal, which could take a minute. But it is such the backbone of everything that we do here that I thought it was important that we touch on this. Hopefully you got that. People, there are going to be some things that pop up down here, right? One of them is going to allow you to come on board and become part of this crew, right? That's the subscribe button. Please go ahead and mash that. You can also hit the ship's bell, and in doing so, you will, in theory, get notification each and every time we go up with a live video. And on the other side, it's going to be either a video or a playlist that'll give you an idea of some of the other stuff that we've done. Take time, knock out 1 or 2 a day. But I think that if you go through all of these people, a lot of the questions that people email me with will be answered already in those videos. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. That's why I got the hat on. And you people are the crew of the greatest boat anywhere on the net. This is the lifeboat. See you, people.